Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, the other is to refuse to believe what is true. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. It is perfectly true, as philosophers say, that life must be understood backwards. But they forget the other proposition, that it must be lived forwards. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. In addition to my other numerous acquaintances, I have one more intimate confidant. My depression is the most faithful mistress I have known. No wonder, then, that I return the love. The greatest hazard of all, losing one's self, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. No other loss can occur so quietly. Any other loss, an arm, a leg, $5, a wife, etc., is sure to be noticed. I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations, one can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it, you will regret both. A fire broke out backstage in a theater. The clown came out to warn the public. They thought it was a joke and applauded. He repeated it, the acclaim was even greater. I think that's just how the world will come to an end, to general applause from wits who believe it's a joke. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. If you don't have many friends, it means you have a lot of life experience. If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of the potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. And what wine is so sparkling, what so fragrant, what so intoxicating, as possibility? The tyrant dies and his rule is over, the martyr dies and his rule begins. To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose one's self. And to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of one's self. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. God creates out of nothing. Wonderful, you say. Yes, to be sure, but he does what is still more wonderful, he makes saints out of sinners. To cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception. It is an eternal loss for which there is no reparation, either in time or in eternity. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. The proud person always wants to do the right thing, the great thing. But because he wants to do it in his own strength, he is fighting not with man, but with God. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry past it. It is perhaps the misfortune of my life that I am interested in far too much, but not decisively in any one thing. All my interests are not subordinated in one but stand on an equal footing. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself. Don't you know that a midnight hour comes when everyone has to take off his mask? Do you think life always lets itself be trifled with? Do you think you can sneak off a little before midnight to escape this? It is impossible to exist without passion. One must not think slightingly of the paradoxical, for the paradox is the source of the thinker's passion, and the thinker without a paradox is like a lover without feeling, a paltry mediocrity. There is nothing with which every man is so afraid as getting to know how enormously much he is capable of doing and becoming. How absurd men are! They never use the liberties they have, they demand those they do not have. They have freedom of thought, they demand freedom of speech. Listen to the cry of a woman in labor at the hour of giving birth, look at the dying man's struggle at his last extremity, and then tell me whether something that begins and ends thus could be intended for enjoyment. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever. The thing is to understand myself, the thing is to find a truth which is true for me, to find the idea for which I can live and die. That is what I now recognize as the most important thing. Never cease loving a person, and never give up hope for him, for even the prodigal son who had fallen most low, could still be saved, the bitterest enemy and also he who was your friend could again be your friend, love that has grown cold can kindle. The task must be made difficult, for only the difficult inspires the noble-hearted. The only intelligent tactical response to life's horror is to laugh defiantly at it. The present state of the world and the whole of life is diseased. If I were a doctor and were asked for my advice, I should reply, create silence. What looks like politics, and imagines itself to be political, will one day unmask itself as a religious movement. It belongs to the imperfection of everything human that man can only attain his desire by passing through its opposite. Your own tactic is to train yourself in the art of becoming enigmatic to everybody. My young friend, suppose there was no one who troubled himself to guess your riddle. What joy, then, would you have in it? My melancholy is the most faithful mistress I have known. What wonder, then, that I love her in return? I am convinced that God is love. This thought has for me a primitive lyrical validity. When it is present to me, I am unspeakably blissful. When it is absent, I long for it more vehemently than does the lover for his object. Adversity draws men together and produces beauty and harmony in life's relationships, just as the cold of winter produces ice flowers on the window panes, which vanish with the warmth. What is existence for but to be laughed at if men in their 20s have already attained the utmost? In my great melancholy, I loved life, for I love my melancholy. It is a frightful satire and an epigram on the modern age that the only use it knows for solitude is to make it a punishment, a jail sentence. People understand me so little that they do not even understand when I complain of being misunderstood. When one has once fully entered the realm of love, the world, no matter how imperfect, becomes rich and beautiful. It consists solely of opportunities for love. For he who loves God without faith reflects on himself, while the person who loves God in faith reflects on God. For love is exultant when it unites equals, but it is triumphant when it makes that which was unequal equal in love. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. Since my earliest childhood a barb of sorrow has lodged in my heart. As long as it stays I am ironic, if it is pulled out I shall die. The stone that was rolled before Christ's tomb might appropriately be called the philosopher's stone because its removal gave not only the Pharisees but, now for 1800 years, the philosophers so much to think about. What is a poet? An unhappy man who hides deep anguish in his heart, but whose lips are so formed that when the sigh and cry pass through them, it sounds like lovely music. My time I divide as follows: The one half I sleep, the other half I dream. I never dream when I sleep, that would be a shame, because to sleep is the height of genius.